You grew up watching those heartwarming movies. A smiling local doctor saving a sick golden retriever pup. It is the ultimate childhood dream for millions of Americans, working with animals and getting paid for it. But here is the brutal reality. That smiling doctor in your neighborhood is likely drowning in absolute despair. Statistically, veterinary medicine has one of the highest suicide rates of any profession in the United States today. And that cozy little mom and pop clinic down the street, it is probably not owned by them anymore. Behind those paw-print logos and friendly waiting rooms hides a ruthless multi-billion-dollar Wall Street empire. Private equity firms are quietly swallowing up America's vet clinics, turning your furry family member into a financial asset. They keep the old family signs up to fool you, while secretly hiking prices by up to 30%. You see, Americans spent over $136 billion on their pets just last year alone. The cost of saving your dog's life has never been higher in the entire history of this country. So, if clinics are charging you thousands of dollars for basic surgeries, why are the actual veterinarians completely broke? Where exactly is all that massive cash flow going? Well, prepare to have your entire reality shattered. Let us get one thing straight. The reason your vet bill is so insanely high is not greedy doctors. Most people think running a vet clinic is just handing out treats and giving out simple rabies vaccines. The truth? A modern vet clinic is a fully functioning human hospital crammed into a tiny strip mall space. Before a single dog walks through that door, the owner has to spend roughly $1 million on equipment. We are talking about digital X-ray machines, full surgical suites, and blood analyzers that cost small fortune. A single MRI machine for a dog costs exactly the same as an MRI machine for a human being. But here is the massive catch. Human hospitals have government safety nets like Medicare and Medicaid backing them up. Veterinarians do not get a single dime of government subsidies. They carry 100% of the financial. You are carrying a massive debt load right out of the gate, bleeding money before day one even starts. Every time you look at that fancy stainless steel operating table, remember it is financed at 8% interest. And then you have the real estate nightmare, leasing commercial space that is at least 3,000 square feet. Landlords know exactly how desperate you are, because zoning laws make it incredibly hard to build animal hospitals anywhere. You are locked into a 15-year lease, paying triple net fees that will easily crush a fragile business. And do not forget payroll, which is the absolute biggest black hole for any service-based business in America. You need licensed technicians, receptionists, and kennel staff all on the clock before the phone even rings. So to just keep the lights on and the staff paid, a single doctor clinic needs massive daily revenue. We are talking about needing to generate at least $2,000 to $3,000 every single day just to break even. That is right. Absolutely zero profit. Every single vaccine and checkup before 2 p.m. is just paying your commercial landlord. This brings us to the absolute most brutal reality of running a veterinary business, the terrifying capacity paradox. You see, selling a physical product is easy. If you own a shoe store, you can sell 50 pairs in an hour. But a veterinarian, they are selling time. And time is the one thing they cannot magically manufacture more. An average checkup takes about 20 to 30 minutes, especially when you are dealing with a panicking 80-pound German Shepherd. You cannot simply rush a blood draw on an aggressive cat just because the waiting room is getting completely full. Therefore, a single doctor is physically capped at seeing maybe 18 to 20 patients in a brutal 10-hour shift. That is your absolute ceiling. It does not matter how good your marketing is. You cannot squeeze in more. Now, here is where the economics get truly twisted. To handle the wild chaos of a Saturday morning rush, you have to staff your clinic like a literal army base. Multiple vet techs, front desk coordinators, and assistants. But what exactly happens on a rainy Tuesday afternoon when 0 clients walk through those expensive front glass? Your revenue completely stops. But your massive payroll clock keeps ticking away at $50 to $80 an hour. You are literally burning through cash while your highly trained medical staff just stands around waiting for a sick dog. Being busy to the point of absolute exhaustion does not actually mean your clinic is making any real profit. In fact, many independent vets are working 60-hour weeks and taking home less pay than a fast food man. It is the ultimate curse of the service industry. Fixed costs, eating you alive while your revenue constantly fluctuates. So how do they survive? Do you actually think they are paying off $1 million MRI with $50 checkups? Let me ask you something. Do you think it is fair that clinics mark up life-saving night pet medication by 300%? Because that basic exam fee you pay at the front desk is literally just a loss leader to get you inside. Have you noticed how a simple teeth cleaning for your puppy costs way more than your own human dental work? The real money, the hidden profit centers that keep this whole fragile empire afloat, are hiding in plain sight. The real cash cows are hiding in the back room, the in-house pharmacy, and the prescription diet. When a doctor prescribes a specialized bag of dog food, that clinic is pulling in a massive profit margin. We are talking about 40 to 50% margins on a single $90 bag of dry kibble. And then you have the blood tests done right inside the clinic using those expensive machines we talked about earlier. A diagnostic panel that costs the clinic maybe $20 to run is easily billed to you at $200. But here is the darkest psychological weapon of this entire industry, the pet parent guilt trip. When you are sitting in that tiny exam room, holding your crying cat, you are completely and utterly vulnerable. Are you really going to say no to a $400 x-ray when the doctor says it might save their life? Of course not. And the veterinary business model heavily relies on that exact emotional leverage just to survive. Independent vets absolutely hate doing this. They did not go to 8 years of medical school to become high-pressure salespeople. They are drowning in an average of $200,000 of student loan debt themselves. The compassion fatigue is absolutely soul-crushing, forcing them to euthanize animals simply because owners cannot afford the treatment. This toxic cocktail of massive debt, endless hours, and emotional burnout creates the perfect storm. And this is exactly where the smart money of Wall Street comes circling in like absolute vulture. Welcome to the metagame, the part of the story where your local vet clinic secretly becomes a corporate cash machine. For the last decade, massive private equity firms and giant conglomerates have been quietly buying up America. They use a ruthless financial tactic called a roll-up strategy, and it is fundamentally changing pet care forever. Here is how it works. A corporate buyer approaches an exhausted, burned-out independent veterinarian who just wants out. They offer a massive payout, usually 5 to 7 times the clinic's earnings before interest and tax. For a struggling doctor, a $2 or $3 million buyout is a literal winning lottery ticket. But the corporate buyers have one strict condition. They absolutely refuse to change the name on the front building. They want you to keep believing it is still your friendly neighborhood doctor, calling all the shots and making the rules. Behind the scenes, though, everything changes overnight as the new corporate overlords immediately start cutting costs to the bone. They switch to cheaper surgical supplies, cut appointment times down, and mandate aggressive daily revenue targets for the staff. That sweet doctor who used to spend 30 minutes explaining your dog's diet, they are now forced to see a new patient every 15 minutes. Private equity does not just buy one clinic. They buy 50 of them in a single, massive geographic. They create a massive monopoly, but keep all the different local names to give you the total illusion of choice. You might get mad at Clinic A and drive 5 miles down the road to try Clinic B instead. But the absolute joke is on you, because the exact same Wall Street billionaire owns both of those buildings. Giant candy companies like Mars now own thousands of animal hospitals, making them the largest employer of veterinarians on Earth. They completely control the supply chain, from the prescription kibble your dog eats to the surgical table they sleep on. And their ultimate exit strategy is ruthless. Bundle hundreds of these clinics together and sell them to another massive fund. They buy these practices for 5 times profit and flip the massive bundled portfolio for 15 times the profit. Your beloved golden retriever is no longer just a family member. They are a highly optimized financial asset class. So, what does this actually look like in cold hard math? Let us run a brutal real world case study. Imagine Dr. Smith, an independent vet running a clinic, generating exactly $1 million in gross revenue this year. That sounds like absolute massive wealth until you open up the profit and loss statement and see the bleeding. $250,000 instantly vanishes to pay the highly stressed technicians and the front desk staff. Another $200,000 is burned on medical supplies, wholesale drugs, and those insanely expensive laboratory testing kits. 100,000 goes straight to the greedy commercial landlord for that 3,000 square foot space and factor in insurance, utility bills, and the massive 8% interest on the medical equipment loans we talked about. Dr. Smith is incredibly lucky to have an $80,000 profit margin at the very end of it. That is a razor-thin 8% net margin. Now, watch how incredibly fast that fragile house of cards collapses. In November, the digital X-ray machine suddenly breaks down and requires a completely new $40,000 sensor pack. Just like that. Half of the entire yearly profit is wiped out in a single devastating Tuesday afternoon phone call. But if a corporate mega clinic breaks an X-ray machine, they do not feel a single ounce of panic. They have a massive cash reserve and heavily negotiated corporate discounts to replace it the very next morning without flinching. They can afford to lose money on surgeries for 6 months just to permanently drive Dr. Smith completely out of business. And once all the independent doctors are bankrupted or bought out, the true corporate monopoly completely tightens its iron grip. The prices for emergency surgeries will double overnight, and you will have absolutely nowhere else to take your sick pet. The ultimate goal of these massive private equity firms is total and absolute market dominance in your specific zip code. Once they completely control the local market, they can push their profit margins to absolute extremes without any resistance. Your trusted local vet is essentially converted into a highly educated assembly line worker for a Wall Street billionaire. They are handed a strict daily quota, forced to upsell unnecessary diagnostic tests just to keep their job. And the truly heartbreaking part of this entire reality is the doctors absolutely hate this just as much as you do. But they are completely trapped in a ruthless system, one that values the bottom line over actual animal welfare. So let us take a step back and think about that heartwarming movie we talked about at the very beginning. You picture a smiling local doctor, warmly holding and saving a sick little golden retriever puppy on a sunny day. But now, I want you to take a much closer look at that beautiful, innocent childhood picture. That smiling doctor is completely exhausted, bound by ruthless corporate performance metrics and drowning in massive debt. That golden retriever puppy is no longer just a beloved family member. It is a captive lifetime subscription model. And that cozy little neighborhood clinic, it is just another tiny cog in a multi-billion-dollar wealth extraction machine.